Hello, everyone. I'm sorry. I have okay, there we go. Sorry, my cat had jumped up behind me on my on my chair, and his nail was stuck in my shirt. Anyways, we're gonna share the I don't know if you can see him. There he is. All right, this is Jasper. He figured out. Oh, he's gonna climb up on me now. Um, he's figured out that he can be on my chair now, and now he just wants me to wants to be with me. So you'll see his head peeking there. He's just going to give me some loving. So hello everyone. Welcome to What's Up Wednesday. Sorry. It is what it is. I'm back. I'm back live, everyone. As you know, I was on vacation for the last 2 weeks, down in Mexico, and here I am back. All right. So tonight we're going to have some fun with a new collection from Hero Arts. All right. So this is, okay. Now you have to go. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, the cat's going to get thrown out soon. Um, so tonight we're going to focus on the Hero Arts No One Lilac You. It is a lilac collection. With all the crappy weather we've been having, I thought we should have something that is spring-like. And lilacs is one of my favorite things for the spring. I wish they lasted a little bit longer. I love the florals and I love the smell of them, and I love this collection. All right. So thank you to all that are watching. I appreciate you watching live, and for those that are on the replay. Okay, so there's not a whole lot to this collection, but we're going to make a few different samples using the products here. So let's first talk about the stamp and die set from here. All right, so this one is the actual called set that's called No One Lilac You. All right, so it's a beautiful bouquet of lilacs in a jar. All right, you're also going to have this separate stem here, some smaller stems and such, and a few little sentiments as well. And then you're going to have the matching dies to go with it. All right. So that is the set. No One Lilac. No One Lilac. And we do have this available. It should be on our website under February releases, as well as under Hero Arts. So that's the first one. The second one, and if you remember, last year there was a set from Hero Arts, which was the hydrangea, and we used it for an event. I can't remember what we did, but it sold like hotcakes. All right, so this is kind of the next floral in the collection, and this is a layered lilac. So this is a standalone die, and basically you just have the base. And then you have the overlay, and then you have individual flowers that you can overlay as well. Then you're going to have leaves with the overlays as well. And these go together really, really simple. It may look complicated, but it's really not. All right. So we're going to do a couple of cards with that. And then to top off this kind of collection, it's not really kind of got lilacs in there, but it did come out with this collection, and I love myself a good background stamp. All right. This one is called Birdsong Script. I'm going to bring this up closer to the camera. Sorry, I know there's a little bit of reflection on there, but it's a really just tiny script, great for backgrounds. This is one of their cling stamps, and that means it is a rubber cling stamp. I always find their background stamps, when they're the rubber cling, are just fantastic. And having a script stamp in your collection is always a great one to have. So if you don't have one, this is a great one. And it is a 6x6. That means you can do all the things with it, all right, in terms of sizing and all that. So we're going to use that in a couple of different techniques to show you how to use that, all right? So we're going to play with these three products and have some spring-like inspiration coming your way. All right, so let's get started. Hello and hello to all of you viewing. Thanks for joining us. All right, so I've taken the liberty of doing a little bit of prep work ahead of the game because this is a stamp, and I wanted to do some coloring. I didn't want you watching me do all my coloring. So I did the coloring already, but I'm going to walk you through the steps and what I did with this. All right, so we're going to start with the stamp and die set and kind of do some fun little things with that. So first card I'm going to come out with, as you can see, I've used that in a different way. Now, I just used the stamp, and I used just part of the stamp to create these really great corners, all right? So we've got this lovely, I'm going to grab the stamp set out. I just grabbed the stamp and I just angled it on the corner of my paper so that I would get that kind of florals. And I did that one, and then I backed it up a little bit on this corner. So this one here, we got the kind of full effect of those florals without the jar. And then I did a smaller effect on there. And then I just colored this with my Olo markers. Now, I'm just going to grab my Olo markers because I know some of you are going to ask what colors. All right, so this one here, I just colored with my Ola markers, straight coloring, no shading, no nothing. I just went in and colored, and it went really, really quick. And just nice bright colors on there. So that one there, I used, I used V 2.4. All right, so that's the color I used to color the lilac florals. And then the leaves, I did YG 1.4. All right, so I just stamped that on white cardstock using an alcohol ink friendly ink. I used Memento in black, and then I just went in and colored it. All right, so really easy and very effective. Those colors really pop on the white cardstock. And now we're just going to add a sentiment to this. So I'm going to grab my stamping platform, and we're just going to add one of the sentiments from the stamp set. And then we're going to mount it. And that's a really quick and simple card, but it's really impactful with those bright colors. All right. So let's go. I'm going to do the two sentiments. I'm going to say, hello, friend. There's no one lilac you. And I'm just going to kind of fit that in between these two little floral clusters that I did in the corner. Oh, I got to stand up for this. I need to make sure that these are straight. So I'm going to start with this one, get this aligned up. And then I'm going to offset this one a little bit. And I think I'm good. Make sure that is straight. And then I'm just going to stamp that with my favorite ink, and that is the VersaFine Clair Nocturne. All right. And give it just a little pressure. Don't give it CPR because it's the fine print on here. We don't want that smushed look. You can always go back and restamp it if you are using a stamp platform. That stamped beautifully. And I think I'll probably splatter this just with a little bit, maybe gold. And then I'm going to adhere it to my green. I found a green cardstock from Spellbinders that matched the green marker really, really well. And then onto that lovely purple from Spellbinders as well. And that will be finished. But I'll finish that off camera. All right. So I just really want to show you that just because the stamp set, this large floral, is in a jar, you don't need to use it. You can just use bits and pieces of it. And again, I just kind of did the corners of that. All right. That one was an easy one. We're going to get into the more complicated ones and then into that die as well. So let me just put these back. I'll finish that off camera. Again, I'll post the pictures. And I say that. I post the pictures and then I don't do it. Did you notice that I didn't post any of the pictures from the last 2 or 3 What's Up Wednesdays? So tomorrow I'm going to post them all right? So I will do that. All right, let me sit back down so the camera's not right in my face. And let's move on to the next one. All right. So I wanted to show you how to kind of use this. I've used the stamp in its full, and then I die cut it out. You know what? I love having the die cuts. I don't like fussy cutting, but I will do it. But having the die cuts with the stamp is always a great thing. So again, I colored this with Copic Olo markers. They are alcohol ink based. Now this one I did a little bit of shading, really easy shading. And for colors for this one here, I know people are going to ask, so that's why I like to have that. For this one here, I used the lighter color was V 4.1, and then the darker color I use V 4.3. And then I also use just a little bit of the V 2.4 in the centers. All right. And then the green, I use YG 1.4 and YG 1.6. And then I have a brown in there. I don't know which brown I use, but it was just a brown. And then a very pale blue for the glass, all right, which was a Copic marker, which I don't have here. It's in my other collection. But anyways, again, very easy to color, all right? You just got to take your time because you do have little areas in there, but it is easy. And honestly, I just kind of do a dotting motion and then just let the ink do its thing. All right, so I have that die cut out. I also did a couple of the little pieces as well. All right, so I'm just going to put them to the side and let's create our card front. All right, this is our showcase. This is, you know, the showstopper. All right, so we don't want to do a lot in the background because this is so beautiful. So I have a little piece of soft purple cardstock here, and I just cut a piece that is 1.5 inches by 4.25. All right, so this is my card front, which is our normal A2 standard size, which is 4.25 by 5.5. So this one here will fit just lovely across the bottom, but we're going to stamp. We're going to use that stamp now. And we're going to do a kind of a watermark effect on this. All right. So it's always a technique when I show, it's like, everyone's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Let me grab my stamp platform. I'm going to take this as a teachable moment now about the stamp platform because we have a rubber mount stamp here. So for those that have a stamp platform, in your stamp platform, you have that mat in there. All right, I have a piece of cardstock in here as well. But we have a mat in there. Now that mat you need when we use clear stamps, all right? That gives a cushion for the stamp to do its thing. But when you have a rubber mount stamp like this one, there's the cushion already in there. You'll notice that gray part is kind of a foam, all right? So when you use your stamp positioner, you want to take this foam out, all right? When you use the rubber cling. All right, so I'm just gonna, and put that in a spot where you'll remember where it is. It's black. It gets blended in with other things, all right? I will tell you that. I have lost that mat so many times. But just put it in a safe spot, and then make sure you put it back into your stamp platform when it's done. All right, so because this is a background stamp, it doesn't really matter for this one here. On my next one, I'll show you. All right, so you're going to do the same thing. You're going to kind of just position. I'm going to position my paper. I'm going to tape my paper down. I want it to be kind of seamless. I don't want a starting or an ending. On the top of our stamp, there will be a starting point and there'll be a spacing. So I don't want that. I just want it consistently on there. So I'm just going to kind of place my paper in the middle area. Again, this stamp is going to be a 6x6. So it's going to fill in this void. So I'm going to use the grid on the back of my stamping platform. And most stamping platforms will have that grid on there. If you have the Stamping Buddy Pro, I think it's just kind of embossed in there, but you'll have that. So I'm just going to place a little roll of tape just behind there to hold that down. All right, so that's on there. Then I'm going to grab my stamp and then just kind of position it right into the corner so everything is square and straight. All right. All right, we're going to just close the lid down. That's going to pick up that stamp. And now we're going to do what we call kind of a watermark effect. All right. So in comes our Versamark. All right. So this is a clear embossing ink. We've used it with embossing powders, but you can also do what they call a watermark stamping. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and ink up my stamp kind of in the area where my paper is. I don't need to do the whole stamp. And I'm hoping my ink pad, yeah, it's wet. I usually use my WOW one for embossing, but I couldn't find that one. It will do the same effect as the Versamark, but okay. So I have that inked, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my stamping tool here, and I'm just going to now give it a little pressure. Do. And I don't see anything on there. I might have to use a darker cardstock. Thought I was being smart. I don't know if we're going to see it. I may have to show you this on a darker piece. I think it works better on a darker piece. I thought maybe it would good. Yeah, I don't, well, it might. All right, there is a little bit on there. Can you see it? It's like a watermark. Let me show you on a darker piece because that's where it really kind of shows awesome. Let me just go grab my scraps here. Okay, I have a piece of purple here. All right, let me show you on a darker piece. It is there, but it's not as dark as I would like it, so. All right, so there's a better sample. When you have a darker piece, you see you get a watermark effect on there, all right? It just creates texture in the background, and that's lovely. And as that dries, it will deepen in color a little bit. So I am just going to grab my heat tool and dry that. Because remember, it is a slow drying ink. So I'm just gonna keep on talking here as I dry this, and it will just show up a little bit more, all right? It's just a deeper tone of what that paper is. All right, so there, let me get the right lighting there so you can kind of see that. All right, so I don't think it's going to really show as much as I wanted it on here. It's there. All right, you can see it. Yep, let me get it focused on there. Let me put this down. It is there. All right, you can see it there, but I wanted it darker. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip that around, and instead of Versamark, I'm going to find maybe a soft gray ink. That might be better. So I'm just going to clean this up really quickly. So if you want to do that watermark effect, darker cardstock. All right, that will be it. All right, so let me grab a light gray ink or something that's light. Let me see. I pulled my 49 to market here. So maybe cappuccino. I know that's not gray, but it's a light color. Or yeah, let's just go with that. Let's just go. All right, so I just want this very soft. All right, let's try this again. Okay, that is lovely. I just wanted a soft little, all right, just to give it some texture. All right, gonna clean this up because we're gonna come back and use it for our next card. I'm gonna put my foam back in there. No, I don't. Well, I'm gonna put my foam back in there. I'll take it back out though because I don't want to lose it. I have it on my other desk here. That is full of cardstock. So, okay. So now I'm gonna take this lovely little piece here, and I think I'm gonna actually edge it with a little bit of ink now. So just gonna grab a little bit of this ink with a foam dauber, and then I'm just gonna hit the edges of this. And I'm also gonna do that on the white piece as well. Just to be consistent. And I'm going very, very light. It's just a shadow of that ink on there. Okay. Okay, I'm going to take this little piece and we're going to adhere it to the very bottom of our card front here. So I'm just going to line it up right to the bottom edge and left and right. All right, then I cut another little strip. Now, my goal is to kind of create this kind of tabletop um, that the vase of flowers is kind of standing on. All right, so I'm just kind of giving it a spot to be grounded, and this is just breaking up those two pieces. So I just cut this out of craft paper. I had a little scrap there, and it's 1/8 of an inch. Could I get any smaller? I know, right? But I wanted to keep it dainty. So a little bit of glue behind there. And we're going to butt that right up. Maybe brown was a better choice because of the craft. See, it all worked out. All right, so there is that. All right, nice, clean, and simple. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab my lilac, and that is going to sit on there. And now it looks like it's kind of grounded. It's sitting on a tabletop. So there is that. So I'm going to pop that up. So let me get my foam adhesives. You know what? I think I'm going to add, let's add a little bit more with those stamps. All right. So I'm going to add, and we're going to add a couple of layers on here. So I am going to grab my stamp platform. What I do with it? There it is. All right. Let's go back. I'm going to take my background stamp here. I want to go back to that stamp set because there are these extra pieces in here. We've got a leaf and we've got these extra little little branched florals. I think let's add them. All right, so don't know how this is going to turn out, but go through my inks here. Okay, I got green and I got purple here. Okay, so let's do our leaf first. Okay, everyone, let's cross our fingers that this is going to work out. Okay, so I'm going to grab this and I am going to position that. And let's have another leaf coming out here. So I just kind of like dry fit it. And now I'm going to do this. Everyone, this all makes sense. This is me, my wonky ideas here. All right, now this is a brand new stamp. So I am going to condition it because I have not used this one yet. All right, let's go with green. So I am using the 49 Market inks. Why? Because they were the first ones on my shelf. All right, so. All right, lovely green leaf. We're not going to worry about coloring it in. It's just the background. All right, I'm going to take this and then see how it's that leaf is going to come kind of poking out from there. I like that. All right, so now let's add another leaf right about there. And in green ink. All right, and then we're going to add a couple of the florals as well. I'm just wondering, do I do one more leaf or is that overkill? Yeah, I will just do 2 leaves and then let's do some of these little. I'm going to take that one and this one. All right, so these are the 2 little kind of lilac florals. All right, so that's going to be there. So let's put one of this kind of there. And let's put this one kind of over here, and then we'll do one on the other side. I think that will work. And we'll do these ones in purple. Just going to go over that one more time. Okay, perfect. All right, see how that's just adding to this bouquet? All right, and I think we need one more on this side. And then we'll put the card together. I won't change my mind. Okay, that one's good. All right, let's put these back on my stamp so I don't lose them. All right, and now let's go ahead and add this. And I already have my foam adhesive on there. You see how that just adds a little bit of dimension on there? All right, so let's. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay, and then I have these two extra little pieces. So we're just gonna glue them on like they fell off and are just on the kind of the tabletop here. So something like that. And let's put a sentiment on there, and then that one will be done. I like the effect those extra stamps put in to make that bouquet just a little bit fuller. All right. I've already taken the liberty of stamping some of the sentiments from the stamp set and then die cut them. All right. So they do come with the die cuts, which are, I don't know where they are, but they do come with them. I don't know what I've done with them. Interesting. I will find them though. They do come with die cuts. All right. So there's no one, Lilac, you, just because. Okay, I think I'm going to do the just because, and I am going to pop this up because you know me, I love dimension. I love dimensions. So I'm going to put a little foam adhesive here. And I'm going to double up on this one here. And there we go. Look how lovely that is. That turned out awesome. All right, so card number 2. I really like the effect of using those stamps as background, kind of just without the color. All right, so there is that. Oh, I love that. That is so nice. Okay, that is card number 2. I got to put these over here so I remember to show you at the end. Okay, let's continue on. I think I have one more with the stamp set. I do, I do. And this one here, I used the kind of singular stem here. All right. And then I also have a couple of the little pieces here. I have that little stem there, and then I have just a single floral. All right, so I'm going to show you how to put these together. For this one here, this was going to be a shaped card. So I just used the Perfect Touch arches. All right, so it's got that little detail on the back. I picked a blue that kind of matched my markers here. For these ones here, again, I use that one purple, the green and the purple, and then all right, I use this blue B 0.2, and then I use the lighter purple, which is V 2.4, and then the greens, again, I used YG 1.4 and 1.6 on these. Really quick, and basically I started with the purple in the center. All right, I just added a little bit of color, and then I took the blue and overlapped and colored the rest of the petals to give it that kind of bluey purple look. All right, so really easy to do. All right, so I have that. Then I coordinated this with the essential arches that fit in here. I'm going to show you this embossing folder because I want to all like make a jelly because this is not available yet, but it will be coming out in, I think, April. All right. For those that are in Maker Mania, this is in your kit and it is awesome. So anyone that's not in Maker Mania and loving this, you can pre-order this one. Just let us know that you would love this one. It is where is it? It is absolutely fantastic. So it is one from Spellbinders, but it's got the musical on there, but it's so tiny and it's just embossed beautiful. Look at the detail on that. I just love it. Anyways, just enticing you all. All right, so I just cut them white on white. I'm going to adhere those together. And we're going to make a kind of a little cluster of these stems on the front of this. All right, so I'm just going to layer this on. All right, so white on white. And then I'm going to pop this on the top of this. All right, so let's just center this in. All right, and now I'm going to make this into a shape card. So I'll get another white arch to put behind it and make it into a shape card. All right, but let's take a look at our little lilacs here. We're going to create a nice little kind of cluster of them. So I'm going to kind of overlap them so that we only see the one stem here. We're going to tuck that in and then tuck this in. And then maybe we'll layer one of these florals on there just to give it some dimension. Look how pretty that is. Oh my gosh, so super. I love it. All right, so we're going to pop this one up. And I want to be very careful where I'm putting my foam adhesive. Maybe I'll just put one for now. All right, so let me just get this one in place. So I'm popping this one. And then I'm going to put foam adhesive on the top of this one, but then just glue at the bottom. All right, so. And then I'm going to tuck this. I'm going to lift this up. Tuck this so that it's going to be coming towards the left-hand side here. I don't want to see any of this stem, okay? So once that is in place, I can go ahead and put a pop dot behind this one now. All right, so we've got this lovely cluster of lilacs. And then to fill that kind of void in between them, we're going to use this little guy, and I'm going to put a foam adhesive behind that one. And we're just going to, it's getting stuck on one of the petals there. There we go. So we'll just stick that. I need to move it over just a little bit. There we go. Look how pretty that is. Oh, I love it. All right. And then this, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to pop it on there. I'm going to grab a sentiment here. We do Hello Friend. I'm going to place it right down there to fill that. All right. So I'm going to use Hello Friend. We're going to pop that one up as well, because why not? A little bit of glue at this end. And we're going to have that kind of overlapping that little leaf just ever so slightly. All right, then I'm going to take this little guy and I'm just going to put this down. I think I'm going to glue it flat so it's kind of underneath. Now to finish this card off, I could go in with kind of Nuvo drops and do the centers of our, to give it a little bit more dimension, but look how pretty that is. So that's a stamp set, the stamp and die set, which I loved. So you can use the individual stem like we did here, the floral, the cluster that was actually in the, or the bouquet that's in the vase in the corners, and I'll finish that one off camera, and then the vase itself, and using those extra little bits to kind of fill in that bouquet. All right, so 3 lovely cards. That's awesome. I really, really like that one. Really awesome. But let's move to the die. All right, so there is a standalone die in this collection as well, which is just as effective. So need to sit down again. Okay, so I'm going to bring out that die, and all right, so like I said, this is a layering die, and it's really simple to put together. All right, it looks complicated, but it really isn't. All right, so let's start with our first card. So I've taken the liberty of already cutting everything out. All right, so for this one here, we're doing just with regular cardstock, And I just did the same color, all right? You could vary the colors, and I'm going to show you that in the next card. But this one here, I just cut everything in the same color in terms of the floral as well as the leaves, all right? So this is the first layer, all right? It looks weird, I know, but it's when you start putting the layers on, it really then creates this lovely lilac floral, all right? So that's our first layer. And then this is a second layer, all right, which is now you're going to layer it on. You could pop this up or you can lay it flat. I'm going to lay it flat. And then you have individual ones that you can add on top. So you're going to create this lovely dimension on there. So let's put this one together. I've got quite the mess going on here. Let me just tidy just a little bit up so I have more room and you won't be all viewing a big cluster of stuff. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take that second layer. I'm just going to put a few little dots of glue behind there. You don't need to put glue on every little floral, but I would say the kind of the outside ones and a few on the inside. All right, the cool thing about this is that this is kind of debossed, all right? So it's going to show you exactly where the piece is going to go, which makes it for easy placement, all right? So I'm just going to place at the top and then just kind of let it fall into place. And I'll bring that up to the camera. All right, so there is that. All right, then I'm going to use my tweezers for this. Then we can take all these little individual ones and you can place them however you want. All right, you can add them just on the ones that are kind of already in the middle, existing ones. You can overlap them where the spaces are. It's completely up to you. I'm going to kind of overlap the ones that are already there. All right, my next card, I'll do them random. So a little spot of glue, and then I'm just going to place them. All right, this is a great thing to do in front of the TV. All right, so then we've got some of these ones. I just cut a bunch of these ones. I don't know how much, if I have enough. Let's hope so. I put all this glue down. All right, I ran out of medium-sized ones, so now I'm gonna just overlap them with larger ones. That's okay. Just gonna create a little bit more texture on here. Oh, there's a medium-sized one. All right, so those are all the medium-sized ones. Now I'm gonna go in with some of the smaller ones, all right? So I'm just gonna put some spots of glue and add those smaller ones. You do not need to put as many as I'm putting on here. I'm just using because I die cut a bunch of them. You don't need to do this many. You can pick random ones. It's just the texture that you're creating. And you know me, I love lots of texture and dimension. So I'm overkilling it. Okay, so just so you know. Oopsie, now they're all falling off because I'm pulling them off. Okay, what do I got here? Let's do those ones there. Maybe I should have done this off camera and had it a few of them on there so you wouldn't have to watch me all gluing. All right, I'm determined I'm going to use all of these, so just bear with me, guys. All right, so let's put a couple of big ones here. Now I'm just randomly putting them in. I'm using them all. I'm using them all. All right, I have one left. That one's going to go down here. Oh, I see a little small one there. That's good because I have a little glue spot right here. Okay, look at my lovely lilac. Look how pretty that is. All right, that was overkill, guys. It really is. All right, look at that. All right, let's put that to the side to let dry. Now the leaves, again, they do have an overlay, so you can do a two-toned effect. There is a deboss kind of vein pattern on there, and then of course we have the little veins as well. And again, I did tone on tone, so I'm just going to glue this. Again, you can use those leaves individually. You can do a two-tone effect or tone on tone. So I'm just going to stick that on and just follow the lines and let the glue set. All right, so I'm going to do that with all three of my leaves. All right. This is fine. But I do like the texture it creates on these leaves. All right, and one more. All right, so our three leaves are done. They've got some nice texture on there. And then, of course, there is the stem as well. So we're going to attach our lilac to the stem now, and then we'll create our card base. All right, so I'm just going to stick that on. All right, I'm going to let those glue dry. It looks fabulous. Oh my gosh. Now, you could add a little bit of ink shading to that as well, which would be awesome. But we're just going to leave it like that. All right, let's move on to our base now. We're going to bring in that background stamp again. All right, so I have just a white cardstock here. This is going to be our card front. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And this one here, I cut at 3 1/2 by 5 1/2. All right, so we're going to have a little bit of border. Actually, I'm going to trim this down just a little bit more, I think. Let's make this into a 3-inch. I think that will be better. Yeah, I'm going to like that. All right, so this is 3 by 5 1/2. All right, we're going to stamp that background stamp on here. So I'm going to grab my stamp platform again. I'm going to remove that mat. I'm going to find my stamp. All right, so again, I want this background stamp to go end to end, top to bottom. I don't want no little gap that the top or the bottom or the left and right will create. So I'm going to bring my panel and I'm going to kind of center it within the 6 by 6 parameters here, all right? So again, I'm going to use a little piece of tape and just, I'm going to do a little roll and put that kind of behind. And just kind of center that within the 6 by 6, all right? Then I'm going to take my stamp and I'm going to just kind of line it up into the corner there. And now we're going to stamp this. Now I'm going to stamp this just with black ink. I'm going to use my VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. And you don't have to really ink the whole thing. You just need the kind of 2 edges. Sorry, I know I'm shaking my camera. All right, so there is that. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. I love, love, love this background stamp. Love it. Ah, so nice. Okay, so there are some areas where I did not get stamped. I'm not going to be really concerned about that. But the beauty of the stamping platform is that you can go back and stamp that and you're going to get this really fantastic. Look how beautiful that is. I love it. Okay, let me clean up my stamp here. You guys are very quiet tonight. No questions. Either you're all sleeping or you're just understanding everything I'm doing. So, all right, let me just put that to the side. All right, so there's our background. And now I'm going to go ahead and adhere this. All right, so that script becomes lovely in the background and it won't take away from our lovely lilac that's going to be on the front. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere that. That's going to go down flat. Mesmerizing. I love that. Thanks, Sue. All right, so I'm just going to center this left to right. And again, it's going to get butt up to the top and bottom. All right, so there is that. And now let's take our lovely lilac. All right, look at how fantastic that is. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to pop this guy up. So I'm going to add some foam adhesive. All right, and I'm going to put this at a bit of an angle. All right. And I am going to put a little dot of glue just underneath the stem to hold that down. I just don't want it getting caught on the envelope going in and out. So I'm just going to secure that little stem. We could put a foam adhesive on there, but it's pretty tiny. It's tiny, skinny. So just going to adhere that down. Okay. So there's that. And now we can go ahead and take our leaves. All right. So you can use all three. You could use just two of them. Completely up to you. Um, and these ones are going to go down flat. So this one here, I'm going to actually tuck this kind of stem behind our brown stem here. And this one here, we're going to just kind of overlap. And look how beautiful it is. I love the bright colors. That purple and green just like are just so lovely together. And let's go ahead and put a little sentiment on there. Let's put no one lilac you just because, or hello friend. All right, we're going to go with no one lilac you. And we're going to pop that up. Couple of things that you could do. You could take a Wink of Stella marker and highlight some of those lovely florals to make them shimmery. That would be kind of cool. You could take gems to put in the centers of your florals. I will mention that there is a little die that will die cut the centers that you can place on there, but I wasn't going to do that with all these little florals that I did cut out on there. You could use Nuvo drops, stickles, or then that would really accentuate those florals. Just a couple of options there. All right, so let me get my little sentiment here. There's no one lilac you. And then I'll finish this up. I'll do something for the centers. I want to put a little bit more black in this one because we use the black ink in the background. We also use the black ink on the sentiment. So I might do Nuvo drops in black on the centers of those. All right, so there is the standalone die. All right, but we got more. I prepped I think 6 cards this evening. Because I'm an overachiever. All right. So this one here, I did different colors of cardstock to show you the standalone die. The first one I did tone on tone. This one here, I cut the base out of a darker purple, and then we're going to overlay a lighter purple on top. All right. Now I won't go crazy with the florals on here, but I do have them. So let's go ahead and put this together really quickly. So this one I use 3 colors of purple. All right. Dark, medium, and light. So the florals that I'm going to layer on top are going to be the lighter color. So you always work from dark to light. So again, this overlay just kind of matches up one. You can see these are really easy to put together. It's not very complicated. Might be like, it's fine gluing, I get that, but really, once you put one together, they go together really simple. And I like lining them up from the top, and then you can kind of see the little petals on the outside kind of match up with the base, so, and it just kind of falls into place. That one needs a little glue at the bottom here. Okay, so there are our 2 lilacs. We're going to do a double lilac on this one. All right, and then I cut a bunch of florals here, and we're not going to go crazy this time, all right? So I've got to evenly distribute these florals here. All right, so let's go 1, 2, and 3. And those are the large ones. And I'm going to switch these up. I'm going to change the direction of these ones here. So they're not going to directly match up. I've changed the angle of them. That one's not going to work so well. There we go. I'm going to do the same for this one. Oh, it fell. Where'd it go? Oh my gosh, it's gone. I don't know if that one's it or not, but it fell off. All right, so there's our large ones, and then let's put a couple of just random medium ones. And again, I'm just switching up the angles on these ones. Okay, let's do this one now. Oh, my glue is really coming out quick. Got a little one stuck on my finger here. Okay, I have some larger ones here, so I'm just going to 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to use them down here. And honestly, I'm just randomly putting them on now. I'm building up this kind of lilac. I'm not matchy-matchy the shapes. I am just adding. All right, I have 1 medium left. Well, I might as well use it. Put it right there. Okay, now I'm going to just grab the small. Oh, that one didn't want to stick. Now I'm just going to put the small ones. And then we can put this kind of card together. That is a great idea, Debbie. I just saw your comment now. Yes, if you were to shape these little florals, and I don't know why I didn't think of that. They would be great. And then you're really going to create a lot of texture on these ones. Um, that would be a great. Maybe if I have time for my last card, I will do that. But okay, I think I've used. Oh no, there's like. I'm gonna do. All right, used up all the little florals on the two. All right, so let me just hold this up so you can kind of see our lovely lilac. So you're really going to create that lovely kind of multicolor or multi-tonal lilac. And again, Debbie, I think that would be great bending them up. All right, so I'll try to do that for my next one if time permits. All right, so I'm going to let those dry. Let's do our leaves. I don't need all of these leaves, so I'm just going to do 4 for sure. So let me just glue these really, really quick. And it's really easy to match up the little, because of that debossed look. And you can see I've got glue everywhere, but because I'm using a glue that dries clear, I'm not really worried about it. Okay. And I would probably take a little bit more time, but now I'm rushing because I just saw the time and I want to do one more card, and it's got technique to it, so I don't want to not do it. All right, so I like the two-tone effect on the leaves. Just adds more dimension. All right, I'm gonna do 3. I might come back for another one. All right, and we've got a stem and a stem. Okay, so let's go ahead and attach our lilacs onto the stems. And this one here, I did green stems instead of the brown kind of woody one. All right, we got our 2 lilacs. We've got some leaves. Now let's put this onto a card. All right. Ooh, I like that idea. Janice says little vellum ones would be very cool as well. Yes, it would be. Where are you all when I'm planning these out? All right. So again, I'm using that fabulous embossing folder. This one's going to be a square card. I did the embossing. It's 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and then this is going to be a 5 1/2 by 5 1/2 card. Now, don't know if I want to keep it as a white one. I may change it up to a purple one, but we're going to just build on our embossed. All right. So again, we're going to create kind of a cluster of lilacs. Look how beautiful that is against the white. All right. So the top, this one here, I'm going to just go flat. And then the other one, we're going to pop up. All right, so let me just, I'm gonna hold that down for a second because we are on that embossed. And I'm gonna sit down again. Well, I'm rolling away. Sorry. Okay, so that should be on, and now let's go ahead and pop this one up. And again, I'm just going to put the foam adhesive on the actual lilac floral, and then put just a tad bit of glue at the base of that stem just to hold it down. All right, and I do want these to kind of overlap one another, so I'm going to go ahead and stick that down. Look how beautiful that is. I love it. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So now we're just going to grab the leaves and let's add some of these leaves. My vacation really charged me up. Well, it's amazing what a little bit of rest and relaxation will do to you. It was something I really did need. I needed a little break. We've got a busy time coming ahead of us, so with Scrap Fest, and we've got a few in person, or we're the storefront on some of crops coming up. It's a busy time, so I needed the time off. So yes, I feel like I'm a little relaxed and ready to take on the world. Although this week has been crazy, and it just started for us, really. All right, I got a big glue clump there. All right, there's that. And then let's go ahead and add this one here. This one may pop up. All right. Just wondering if I want this one here. No, I'm just going to go with the 3 leaves. All right. So there is that. Look how pretty that is. Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, let's put a little saying on here. And am I ready for Maker Mania 13? Pam asks. I am. I think so. I've had my samples done for a while because I knew I was going to be on vacation. And we had a couple of other different events that I was part of that came first. But yeah, I'm loving my samples. I still have to do my instructions, but that's easy to do. But I think I'm ready. I think I am. All right, I'm going to put the hello friend there. And then I'm going to choose a background. All right. I don't know if I'm going to put it on the white. I do like it on the white, but I think even having a purple background might look lovely as well. But I'll choose that off camera, and I will post the picture tomorrow. But oh, look how gorgeous. I think I'm going to want a few little pearls in the centers of these, maybe some little rhinestones. I think that would be just absolutely stunning. All right. All right, that's card number 2. All right, let's continue on. One more card. I got it in me. All right. I gotta watch the time because I do have a Zoom call at 8:30 this evening. So okay, this one here, I'm gonna show you the die cutting and all that. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of inky magic, I guess. So I have my card front. I do have a stitched black circle ready to cut out, but I do have 2 pieces of watercolor paper here. So we did cardstock, same color and color. All right, so we did that one. Then we did 3 different tones of the same color. All right, now we're going to work with some inky goodness. All right, so I have 2 pieces of watercolor paper here, and I'm going to start with inks that are water-based. You could use distress inks for this. You could do oxides as well. I just have the 49 and Market inks handy. All right. So I picked Lavender Kisses and Summer Sky. All right. So that's what we're going to do. And what I'm going to do is on my glue, I got so much glue on here. We're going to do, we're going to apply the ink right on on my glass mat here. I'm going to start with one color. So I'm just going to smush on. Now, this is a really light purple. So I'm just smushing that on. And then I'm going to grab my water spritzer. And I'm going to spray that. So I have little tiny water droplets there. And then I'm going to grab my watercolor paper and we're going to kiss that color. All right. So we're just going to dip that in. And we're going to build up the color on here. All right. So I'm going to grab my heat tool and dry in between. Like I said, this is a very light color, Lavender Kisses. It doesn't need to be completely dry, but I do want to layer up the colors. So I'm going to clean this glue off here too while I can. Okay, so that's my first. I'm going to go into the blue next. This is going to be a lot stronger. So I'm not going to put as much on there, and then I'm going to spritz it with water again. And I want to see water, little droplets, puddles. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and kiss this one as well. And we want that kind of blue and purple to kind of mix on there. All right. So I am going to do a little bit more purple on there. So I'm going to dry that. I may have to grab another purple. This one may be too light, but we'll see. All right, so I'm going to go in again. Add a lot. And spritz. And dip. Okay, that might be okay. I really wanted that purple to be showing, and I think I got it. All right, so there's my background. So I'm going to dry that one really quickly, then we're going to do green. Now, when you are done getting all your color on here, we want to die cut from this. So it really needs to be dry, good and dry. All right, so whatever the last dipping, kissing that you do with the color, make sure your paper is good and dry. So if you have lots of water, you want to take the time to dry that or leave it overnight to dry. All right, I think I'm good. Okay, so I'm going to put that to the side, and I'm going to do the same thing now with green. Now the green, I'm only doing one color of green. Okay, so I've got the water, and I'm going to dip, dip, dips, and smush. All right. Da, da. All right, I think that is good. I'm going to leave that inky goodness on there. I'm going to dry this and re-dip. Okay, let me just re-dip that, pick up some of that ink. All right, so clean up, and I'm going to dry this really, really well. And then we're going to die cut some of these elements on there. So just as this is drying, the new 49er Market inks, I haven't had a real good chance to play with them. But what I have, when I have played with them, I'm really impressed with them. They are nice and soft colors. Oops, I just burnt that paper. Was it moving? Moving her around. They are beautiful. They do all the things that Distress do, but I like these ones because you can actually stamp with them. I find with Distress inks, you can't get a real great image sometimes with the Distress inks. So I do like these ones. From what the little time that I've played with them, they're impressing me. So you'll probably see me using them a lot more. Okay, so we have our purple and blue one, and then we have our green one. This is going to be for our lilacs, and this is going to be for our leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the dies now, and we are going to now cut these pieces from there. So I'm going to grab these ones here. All right, I'm going to die cut them from there, and then the leaves I'm going to die cut from this. All right, so I'm going to do that. My die cut machine is just to the left of me here. You're going to hear it. You just won't see me doing it, okay? So I'm going to do my lilacs first. And I do everything all at once. All right, here we go. Well, one moved on me. Figures. All right, take a look. Take a look. Look how pretty that is. All right, so we're going to get those lovely tones of purple and blue in there. Don't want to lose these. Okay, and there's a few little ones stuck on my little cutting board here. All right, so there is for the florals. And I could cut more florals out of here if I wanted to, but I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, I'm going to cut the leaves. And we might as well do a stem out of here as well. Okay. And let's put this together really, really quickly. Oh, that stem is giving me grief. It's stuck in there. Doesn't want to come out. There we go. Okay. So there is our kind of watercolored effect pieces. All right, so let's put this together really, really quickly. All right. Yeah, I'm using, Debbie's asking if I'm using watercolor paper. Yes. Um, so using watercolor paper, the ink will then sit on top of the paper, won't soak in right away. So you're going to be able to build up those colors to get that really nice watercolor effect. If you used a regular cardstock, the ink is going to sink in and you're going to get more kind of splotchy kind of look. All right. So, all right, Debbie, I know I'm rushing, but I think I want to shape these flowers. So it's amazing when your room is organized and you know where things are now. It makes life so much easier. Okay, so for these here, I'm just going to grab my floral. So I have my shaping mat here, and this is from Spellbinders. You've seen me use this before if you watch me regularly when I make my three-dimensional florals. It is a foam mat that will fit into one of the craft stacks, which I love because this way it's protected. All right. Do I get them all? Oh, no, there's one. Okay, so the molding of these will not be difficult at all. You do need a stylus for this. All right, so I'm just going to grab my stylus. And all right, you don't need a big stylus. Let me start with my medium one here. And all you need to do is really push down in the centers of them, and that'll be enough of the shaping. If you push down on the mat, they cup right up, which is the effect that you want. So thank you, Debbie, for the idea. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but it is quick shaping. All right. If you don't have a mat, you can use like if you have a mouse pad, but this is a nice dense foam mat. It's lovely. All right. Now we're going to add these on. 1, 2, and 3. And let's go 4 and 5. Those are for the large ones. Oh, Debbie, look how beautiful this is. What a fantastic idea. All right, now let's put the medium ones on. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm just putting them on randomly. And I love that, we're putting like blue flowers on top of the purple pieces, and but it all blends beautifully together. Oh my gosh. This is going to be my favorite one, I think. All right, I think I've lost a few of the florals. All right, we're just going to continue on. Put some of these little small ones on there. Now my glue doesn't want to work. Okay. If other flowers show up, I will place them on. I should have had 5 of everything, but who knows? All right, look how beautiful that is. Ah, love that. Look it. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Thank you, Debbie. Okay, so we have that done. I'm going to leave that on. Now we're going to do the leaves really quickly. Oh, those leaves are even awesome too. And I love that. Love it. I love it when a plan comes together. It's always a thought, when I'm like, okay, maybe I'll do this. And when it comes together, it makes me very happy. There have been times where things I'm like, oh, that did not work out, but you make the best of it. But this is turning out awesome. All right, last one. Do do. Oh, that did not go down straight. Oh my gosh. The last one is giving me difficulty. All right. All right, not perfect, but that's okay. All right, I'm going to take my stem here. Let's glue our lilac on. Well, you know what would be really nice on this? A shimmer spray. Just saying. So I'm going to go grab my shimmer spray. Okay, so which one do I have? I have Lindy's. Okay, now I have the Lindy's Glitz Spritz. I'm not sure if we have this one in stock, but we do have the sheer spray from Imagine Crafts, which works the same way. This one here is kind of a clear spray with a sparkle, all right? So I'm just going to, this one's not working. I have one that's not working and one that's not. All right, this one is called Fairy Fluff. This is my favorite. And I'm just going to give these a little spray. Okay. I'm very excited about this one now. All right, let's let them dry. Clean up on aisle 1 here. I'll bring them up to the camera after they are dry. And let's bring our card base here. So I just have card base that's a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then I have just a white mat, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So we're going to just mount those together. All right, and then we're going to, actually, I think I'm going to add a little bit of a blue haze in the background. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my ink. Just do a little bit of a blue kind of halo in the back. Just very light, just to give it a little bit of blue. That's it. Maybe a little bit more because we got to go close out to the outer edge. I forgot about that black circle was so big. All right. There we go. All right, this is going to go down flat. And I'm going to push it a little bit closer to the top, and I'm going to center it left to right. All right, so there is that. And now take a look at how beautiful this is going to be against that black. Ah. Okay, this is not completely dry. I need to zap it with the heat tool. And then I'm going to bring it up to the camera to show you that lovely shimmer on there. Okay, you ready? Look. All right, can you see? Is the camera? Oh, there we go. The camera is picking up that shimmer. Oh, it is so, so pretty. Okay, now we're gonna go grab for the foam adhesive. What did I do with my foam adhesives? I got quite the mess going on here, everyone. Quite the mess. They were just here. Okay, we're to the small little ones because I don't know where my big ones went. They're probably right in front of my face. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to put those foam adhesives on there, but the stem, I'm just going to put a dotted glue at the end. And I'm going to put this at this angle here. So stick that down, and I'm going to follow that stem and give it a little pressure at the bottom. Okay, and now we can do our lovely leaves. And these are going to go down flat. This one I'm going to put a foam adhesive behind it here. A little bit of glue on the stem. And last but not least, this little leaf. And then we'll put a little sentiment on there. And then, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got these all done. Oh my gosh, that is stunning on there with the black. All right, so let's do, I think there's no one lilac like you. I think we'll do that one again. And I'm going to have it kind of extending right about there. I'm just wondering. You know what? It might be the just because. I don't want to flatten any of that dimension. Yeah, just because. Just because. All right, we are just about done for this evening. So before I sign off, just a reminder, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments now and I'll answer them. But just a reminder that I will post all these done. I'll put the finishing touches on, like gems and such. And then I'll post them tomorrow. And I promise you, I will post them tomorrow. And I'll also post last week's and the week before and the week before. All right. So you're going to get lots of inspiration tomorrow on our Facebook page. But there is that one. I like that little blue hue in the background. It really pulls in that blue from the floral. All right, let me just tidy up really, really quick. I'm going to bring all the samples out here just in making sure there nobody has any questions before I sign off. So we did the standalone die, all right? So we did it on color, all right? Same color to build up the layers. Then we did the tricolor, same tone. And then we did the watercolor look. Look how beautiful they are. Oh my gosh, stunning. And then we did also the there's no one Lilac U, the stamp and die set. And we did the vase, all right? We've added the extra components to build up that bouquet. We did a lovely shaped card here with the single stem and we built it up. And then we also used that larger floral bouquet in the vase, but we just used the floral components in the corner here to create a really effective card there as well. So 6 lilac cards just makes you smile because that means spring is on the way, right? All right, so that is it for me this evening, everyone. Oh, I did really good because I got 3 minutes before my next meeting. So thank you again for joining us this evening. My camera's kind of in the way. I appreciate it. These are available on our website now. You'll find them under the February arrivals, and they're just fantastic. All right. So everyone, have yourself a fantastic evening, and we shall talk to you soon. Bye.